So today we're together with Marc Wallert. And first of all, Marc, it's super good to see you again and welcome.
Equally. Hi, Cecile. Hi, Jesper. It's so good to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our podcast is called Self-Directed. It is about parenting, traveling, and about all the people we meet on our travels. And you are one of those. And I would love to go right into it. So one of the times we talked, you mentioned that you once in your life have been kidnapped, and that was a life-changing experience. And I'm like, we should get him to tell that story because that is wild. So can we start there for the people who don't know who you are and your story, Marc?
Yeah, it's part. Yeah, thank you. Of course, it fits very well. I realized to the self-directed podcast because that was an experience of not self-directed. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, how do you say, externally directed. So indeed, I was kidnapped and I was taken to the jungle for on the Philippines for 140 days. And those were terrorists. So I was in the middle of a guerrilla war, and I
Why
was
were you
not
down there?
for holidays. Yeah, so I was 27. That was in the year 2000. So I was there with my parents actually, which I hadn't seen a long time. Traveling, always having traveling a lot myself. And I was abroad, so we thought, okay, let's spend some time together in Malaysia diving, which was really nice. And then it happened, and then they took us, abducted us to the Philippines, and I lost control.
Yeah.
Was your parents abducted as well?
Oh yeah, the three of
Oh,
us and 18 more other people were actually torn in two small boats, from one paradise island onto, yeah, for 20 hours over the open ocean, onto another island on the Philippines, which was bigger, but full of war between rebels, Islamic rebels, and the military of the Philippines.
Mark, how does an abduction happen? Are you on the beach and they come in with guns and treat it? What happened?
It was a super small island. It was just more turtles than people allowed on the island because it was a wild reserve and it's a beautiful underwater, beautiful overwater. Just you can walk around it for 20 minutes and then that's it. It's very small, very nice. And so you wouldn't think of anything like that to happen. So we actually had a sundowner. We were diving, and Easter Sunday, we sat there and watched the sunset. Really, just it was a really peaceful moment. And then suddenly behind us, there were heavily armed people and a lot of panicking people as well from the hotel staff. And then I looked into a huge bazooka, kind of a gun pointing to my head, which was pretty crazy moment. And then, of course, I did not know immediately what happened, but I knew this is going to be a wild story, and it was.
And
So
you
I don't want to frighten anyone, by the way, to go on holidays because
because I
I
think
still
you
do.
have specific questions.
no, more like 140 days of unsecurity, I presume, no control of what happens, and a big question about what's going on.
Exactly. That best describes the situation. So uncertainty was the biggest one of the biggest challenges that we didn't know how, when, and it's going to end. So we didn't know, do we survive? We didn't know when would it be that we are back to freedom again? Will we be in good shape and whatever? So that was uncertainty was a big one, and we could not fully, or we could hardly control the physical surroundings, which was given by nature, which was given by being in a certain area with the kidnappers. But however, what intrigued me to also share it with other people, the story, is that you can control pretty much your mental state, and that's pretty enormous. And every one of us, so there were 21 hostages, including myself, we all developed some strategies, which they are called resilience strategies. So how to stay mentally strong and how to cope with that uncertainty, with everything that happened. And that was really interesting to see how and that it works. That was interesting.
So you want to evolve a bit on that? I suppose that strategies that we could all use, we just don't have to be abducted first.
Yes, I mean, I realize when, you know, when sharing my story or when giving talks, then I realize that the people I'm talking with or I'm talking to, that they're in similar situations, not being abducted by terrorists, but we are all hostages, the one or the other way in our lives. I mean, everyone, including the three of us, including my family, including all the ones who watch this video. We're in the middle of a world which is like a jungle, which is, you know, surrounded by so many crises, and we can't run away from it. Be it climate change, be it the war situations, which evolve and we don't know what direction, be it artificial intelligence, which is not a crisis, but, you know, all those surroundings which we can't run away with, but we have to cope with it. We have to stay strong in very turbulent times. And so this is where actually we are in situations. To give an example, in our situation, we were in this, we just described in the beach. They put us into the boats and we drive to, heading for where, I thought, the thing is, we wanted to do a night dive. This was the original plan. And I said, no, let's chill out. Let's just enjoy the sunset. That's why we were kidnapped. And this is why I was really regretting sitting on that boat. I thought, like, my God, why didn't we do the night dive? Now, that's very natural to do. That's very human, but it doesn't help you. So what helped me was then to say, well, that's it. I mean, I can't go back in time, so let's better look ahead. And to do this, what helped me is that I thought maybe this is some sort of a learning experience in my life, because I was in a difficult phase of my life at that time, and I asked the universe to give me a sign of what to do with my life. And so I felt like it could be that I posed the wrong question or posted the wrong way. But this felt like not quite the answer, but perhaps leading to the answer. And so I thought, like, okay, what's in it for me? And so many people who find themselves in difficult situations, they sometimes it helps to say, who knows what it's good for? Perhaps one day in my life I will understand, okay, that was a difficult time, but it was a start for something positive as well.
I would love to go deep in all that you learned, but I need to know you got out alive. I know you did, but if we can, yeah, I know, but it's more like, so if we can just close. So what happened? How did you get back? And was there like a hostage negotiator involved? And how was all that?
It was a very complex behind the scenes kind of a negotiation process. In the end, to cut the long story short, ransom money was paid for us. And so one after the other of the hostages was released. And I was among the last four, the group of four who were released in the end. And so until then, we actually didn't know, do we meet again, my parents, myself, or everyone else? But we did, and we're very glad and thankful for everything that helped us to get out.
And the kidnappers got what they wanted, which was money, it sounded like.
Yeah, and what they didn't want, obviously. So I think no one really survived in the end, but they did get the money. And but just
don't go to war. Don't kidnap people. It's not good. No. How many do you? It must have been such a life-changing event, Marc, and you, of course, had your parents to share it with and connect with about it over the years. But was there some kind of bond created between the group? I'm not saying you meet and have a, hey, it's 20 years since we were abducted party, but is there some connection, and maybe it fizzes out over the years, but how has that been?
Well, we wouldn't probably have a abduction celebration, but a release celebration could be. I mean, this is a natural question. It's 24 years ago, so I'm not, or we are not in contact, all of us, anymore. We had been for some time, the years just after that. But also, I mean, it was a very tough experience, where it was very close. You know, in the end, everyone survived, but we had a lot of very close deaths, and it was a very tough time. And so we didn't almost only develop friendships. Some people you were just happy to not see again, to be honest. Yeah. So, but we did work as a team during that time. And after that, with some, or I'm still in contact, and with others not. So, but we don't have a celebration party. No, we don't actually have that.
No.
But we think of it. Yes, we do sometimes meet on social media in the sense that, you know, that somebody of us has a posting of saying, okay, wow, it's 4 years ago that I'm released, and it's like my second birthday. That's what it felt like. And then so the others comment and say like, hey, happy second or whatever birthday. So this, yes, but we haven't had a huge gathering with people in 7 countries, you know, all over the world. 2 different lives as to come together.
Now I know you give a lot of talks about the story, and also maybe mostly about what we can all learn from what you learned. So maybe it doesn't compare. But, you know, I beat cancer 13, 14 years ago, and it's not the same, but it is same kind of life-changing, life-threatening. It was almost the same time frame. I was hospitalized for 6 months, and very close to not making it. And then I got out, and I also feel this second birthday feeling. Yeah. Okay, I got one more chapter that I can fill out in the story of my life. But then at the same time, I often forget, like when you said, do you celebrate or do you meet? We don't even talk about it anymore.
No, that is right.
We didn't do it's a 10-year survival date, or it's as if these things, you learn what you need to learn and move on.
Yes, I fully agree. First of all, well, I'm glad and congratulations that you made that adventure. And yes, it's hard to, and it doesn't make sense to compare such experiences, but some people, well, I would say, you know, every person and every crisis or every challenge in life is just too different. But in the sense, it's very similar also, because you go through existential fear, and then the way you react naturally is very similar, and also what helps to get out. So I'm inclined to ask a lot of questions to you, being a true expert of resilience, being there, being in such good shape, and sharing also your second life. I mean, you share a lot of your experience with all your followers and the world schooling and more surrounding. So I think that's your gift that you also give back to others. And I'm inclined to say, what did help you to get through it, and to how did this change your life, if I may ask back?
I think some things are, to the extent that I know you already, kind of are the same. That I had the post-traumatic growth. I decided to, come out of this stronger. I became more of what I was before. I wouldn't say I changed. I just want to say I sharpened. Does that make sense? I no more soft corner. if there was anything soft before, it's gone. And I got more impatient. I'm very impatient by nature. I got more impatient. I have no moments to spare for nothingness. For silence, yes, please, but not for bullshit and small talk and things that don't matter. It's very big part of the reason that we travel. We wanted to always, all the time we've lived together, we've been wanting to travel full time,
but
we couldn't get ourselves.
It could have been a dream we would have talked about on our 18-year-old birthday.
Survived, and I don't sit well with Scandinavian winters, which are effectively 50% of the time. I got this feeling now I have my life back and I'm giving half of it to winter. Why am I doing that? Lots of people live in other places. Even though I didn't know that, how would we make it happen? I was looking at the planet saying, you know, millions of people live in Spain. Why couldn't I do that? You can't that I have to stay here. I just got a little stubborn. So that's part of it. And also, of course, all the sharing, which is maybe not so much, but most of the sharing comes from this idea that I want to just shout out for the personal freedom, for doing what is right, for not falling asleep, not becoming a zombie, not obeying too much, not thinking that you don't have options, get away from the fear. And as you said, it's all in the mind, really. If you can, I don't like the word control, but if you can get to a good state of mind, trusting that it'll all be okay, then most things are not gonna. I mean, we've had our fair share of setbacks in life where cancer is an obvious thing, but there's been a few things, and I just think we just bounce back.
Yeah.
And that's a choice.
May I follow up on that bounce back one? I mean, you bounced back, but you didn't go back to your old life. Obviously, you changed quite a lot, and that's a big difference between the two of us. You know, I must always say and admit that, you know, one should expect that after such a Hollywood experience, like, you know, that you are changing your life immediately. And I must admit, I didn't. I went back to my old life, and you know, and which was stressful at the time for job reasons, you know, being international consultant, close to burnout. And then I did go into burnout after that, you know, 5 years after my release, and it took a long time until I actually really had the post-traumatic growth, as you describe it, to really understand what was in it, you know, to learn about myself in the jungle and what made me strong then and how can I apply in my life. It sounds silly, but it took quite a long time. And today I can say that I do the things that I even wrote into my bucket list in the jungle, you know, saying, if I survive this, you know,
I want to do it. Yeah. So
I
had exactly that. If I survive this, that was so that's where I think where you and I have had a similar experience, the if I survive this thoughts, because I had 6 months in the hospital with not a lot of energy, whole lot of vomiting, a whole lot of chemotherapy, a whole lot of struggling just to stay alive. And in the mind was okay, but if I survive this, I will never again A. I will surely do B. I will, all these things.
Oh, really?
I
must
had a lot of those thoughts.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I must correct, I realized, because I did not write it this way. I wrote a lot of diary, which was great. It's a great tool in difficult times. But I did not write like, I'm for sure going to do this. No, I had a reflection that I said, okay, now I'm 27. I even had my birthday in the middle of the jungle. And I reflected on my life, and I thought, like, I had a great life. To be honest, I had a lot of traveling, a lot of fun, a lot of, even success and stuff. But I thought like, okay, two things so far I missed out. The one thing is to really fall in love and to found a family, which was one big thing where I thought like, if this was it, then I missed out on that one. And the other thing was that I wanted to do something job-wise, or name it how you want, which is a passion and not just, thriving for success, which I was at that time. Successful, but so, I mean, I had a burnout for no reason later. So, and however, it took me a long time to actually correct this or to find my way. Until here today, I can say this is the only two things I do in my life is my family, which is an amazing relationship, and my family and my passion, which today is giving talks and or writing a book or whatever, but sharing part of my life stories in terms of resilience. But this is really, this took so long. I was beyond 45, I believe, and then it made click. So, but
some of
last
these
but not
things
least.
just need a lot of incubation time. We didn't pull the plug and go traveling the moment I had my last blood transfusion. It took. There's a logic to it because there was the 5 years of waiting to see if I was actually cured or not. So, and what was it? 6 years after we left? I feel like Fjord was 6 years old.
Yeah.
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 So I'm not trying to make this sound.
No, we were slow as well.
It was quite the shock, and there was a lot of emotional healing that had to happen. And
yeah.
And I was weak, and we had a miracle child. I was not supposed to be able to have more children. So, but then I got pregnant really fast, and that was not easy physically just after chemotherapy. So there was a lot of, and then we decided to homeschool. Same. So that was right after. That was a year after.
Well, Marc, your passion today, you have written a book, given I don't know how many talks on resilience. What is it about resilience that fascinates you, beside you having lived through what you have lived through?
Yes. It is the bounce back aspect, because I realize that many people believe you have to bounce back, and we have to this, how do you say, tumbler toy, a Steh-auf-Männchen. It's in German. It's when you fall down, you have to just get up and to move on. And this is a big mistake, and I made this mistake. I thought, I'm back again, but this is silly. What you actually should do, and which I did too late. So that's why that's my passion to share that story. It's not about the jungle. It's not about the hero surviving a war or something like that. It's rather the one who did not learn the lessons until he had enough crisis in his life to realize, okay, either I change something in my life, or my life is not going to change. I will run in circles. I will get up and fall down at the same spot where I just got up. And this is a very tragic tumbler toy, which is going up and down and up and down. So if you want to move on, if you really want to grow, then really use, I mean, what fascinates me is that let's face it, every single person has his or her own crisis, in life, and they are very different. It doesn't make sense to compare, because everyone, for financial health reasons, relationships, job, whatever, feel that they are close to losing their existence as they imagine it to be. And so it's part of life. It will not go away. I still can say I'm still blessed with wonderful challenges in my life. And now today, I don't want to be euphemistic. I don't want to talk things small. A crisis is a crisis. I don't want to say, don't want to give it a swear word, but it's bad. Yeah. But at the same time, it is, if you once say, okay, I don't want this to happen to me or to anyone else, but now that it has happened, now that it's already there, now, at least afterwards, what's in it for me? This is what I really invite people to do, to not just suffer through something and to get up again and to continue, but to really say, okay, wow, this was, now, was there anything that there was my mistake and that I can correct, that I can change in my life? And I did a lot of mistakes. And once I realized, okay, I take responsibility for my mistakes, for choosing the type of relationships I had, for choosing the right of jobs, the kind of jobs that I had, I was free. I was not a hostage. I was me choosing it. So I can choose in a different way. And this is what I later did. And this is what today is not stressless. Is still a challenging life, but it's a life which I really choose and which makes me happy and relationship-wise and job-wise. So this is what fascinates me in resilience. It's not what I don't like, I must say, is to say, just stay positive. It's not about thinking positive and relaxing. This is part of, sometimes you need that. That's part of resilience. But the other one is to be very realistic, to really think about risks, to take decisions, to take responsibility, to really face it, and to take to steer your life, and not to just think you are a victim and you just have to think positive, it's gonna go away. Sometimes it's not.
To steer our life, Mark, we need some pointer for the direction we should steer in. How do you personally work with that?
Because with the
direction, if it's a ship you have and you say you need to take control and steer your life, I'm considering maybe first you need to have an idea about which direction you should go in.
Well, generally spoken, what I mean is to take responsibility. As you know, you see me drinking all the time. This is actually part of my story. Let me go just a moment back to the jungle. We made a mistake as hostages, that we were very positive that we will be released soon, and we didn't prepare to be involved in any type of shootings. But then suddenly we were in the middle of a war situations for a couple of days, and we didn't have any water prepared. We didn't take it with us. So we almost died because we didn't drink anything for walking through the jungle. And then now we survived that episode, but then we learned we have to learn from the mistake, and to then I always have water with me now. I realized just the other day that I'm always drinking. I always have a bottle of water with me because I learned you should be prepared to have water. That's the first thing you need if you walk away somewhere and you don't find anything to drink. So this was a jungle experience, and now in life, it's sometimes reacting to learn from mistakes is giving a new direction, because you don't repeat the same mistakes from before. And still, yes, the question is, but not going somewhere doesn't say where are you actually going. So what's the direction in life? For me, it's twofold. And the one was, I always knew I want to found a family. This was one big dream. And another one was always the question, what am I really fascinated by? And what can I think and talk about all day, which gives me energy? And this is, in a way, what I'm doing now. But still, I must say, the big direction in my life, in my family's life, is not actually coming from outside from me. So we are free learners, we are world schoolers, we are a family, more and more traveling, having left home some time ago. And this is not actually on my initiative, because the direction giver, the strategic initiative, intuitive thinker, or the think tank behind it is my wife, really. So I'm much more of an executor and a shareholder and a supporter and everything. I'm full-hearted going this way, but it's not initiated in my brain or in my heart. It's actually the big directions of thinking out of the box was never my thing, I must say. And now we're a very good fit in that sense that my wife is just very much out of the box thinker, and I'm complimentary, I'd say, to say the least.
I was about to say, I know that feeling.
Which
And I
is
love your wife. She's wonderful.
She's great. I was thinking when you said, so what's the point? I was thinking of Captain Jack Sparrow. Just bring me that horizon. It's about moving on. It's about being open to, I mean, I think there's so much individualistic goal, accomplishment, acquire stuff and accomplish more in the mainstream lifestyle that you have broken out of and that we have also broken out of. And our lives, in our lifestyle, we physically move around. So it's not just about having some direction. We're actually living in a vehicle.
yeah.
We have to think about, we have to think about where do we go tonight? And that's physical movement. But as I see it, the most important element is to go. It's not what's always drawing is what's behind the next corner, what's over there. So it is just bring me that horizon. But the movement and being open to the adventure it gives is what it's all about. So you just need any direction. I can just come up with some, I don't know, some piece of art I really want to see in the north of England. And then we have to travel all the way there. And it's everything in between that's will spark the real adventure, especially the people we meet. And that you cannot plan for. I'm curious about the resilience concept, because that's what you talk about, resilience. And it's a word that really annoys me, to be honest. You don't annoy me, to get that straight. But the word is being used very often in the realm of talking about bringing up children, that we want our children to be resilient. And I wrote several things about how I do not want my children to be resilient and how I find resilience a really annoying ideal.
Really?
Yeah. But this is within the realm of children, because I find community is very important, and resilient children, especially resilient small children, the whole thing around it, the way mainstream talks about it, to me sounds very much like children suppressing their emotions and children being forced into fast lane development that I don't think will help them in any way. It will actually set them back quite a lot in the long run. I think they need to mature slowly, and they need to know that they are unconditionally loved all the time. And there can be no pressure on how fast you grow when you're a child. So I'm just thinking, it's interesting for me because I've put a lot of thought into this concept, but in another context. Maybe it's something else when you talk about it. Or is it resilience among adults only you talk about?
I never questioned that really, and I'm not sure I see the conflict between resilience and what and about kids or adults. It's the same thing. It's how to deal with stress and awkward situations or crisis in life is really and the best to get through it and to grow from it. So this is, and the same holds true for kids. And I haven't perceived the word resilience to be counterproductive for kids. I must admit, in my life,
sorry, go on.
In my perception, what I realize is that this is like how my wife Julie and I, how we get together in terms of thinking. I come from I'm not from my resilience experience and my reflections, and she comes from her intuition about a free life and the the virtue of a free life. I mean, it's not just having fun and to be free and to have not responsibility. It's a growing process. It's about learning from taking responsibility, learning from your own mistakes and all that. And this is really when I see what drives the intuition, for example, to it's not even unschool. We never schooled. It's free schooling, it's free living. And she always keeps saying it's not unschooling, it's just free living. It's for her, it's so normal. She just says like it's free living because it's so logical. Say, can't you feel that? And then it's really intriguing to see that she thinks about it in a different way, but she means the same thing. It's about it's like an organism to prosper, not despite, but also because you are in an environment where you actively participate. And that means it's like diversity in nature. You don't want to have everyone the same. It's monoculture. It's not resilient. You want everyone to be different. It's complicated. It's crazy, but in the end, it's diverse. It survives. And the same with kids. You can't, always tell them what to do because they will never find out what type of flower they are. And from my book of life, I learned that I was not resilient because I did what I thought was right to do, to have success, to do all these things, what my boss says, because I always did what my parents said. And, I learned to do to please people, to be successful. And then so late, I asked myself, what do I want in my life? What is really interesting me, myself? And this is exactly like a part of what we try to avoid, is to tell our kids what to do, because then we kill themselves exploring themselves. So in a sense, we tell it, or we look at it from a different side, but what world and preschooling very much is for me is to allow resilient kids to prosper.
I think Cecilia might have read some articles or blog posts where people use the word in an absolutely another way than you do it, where it's about children becoming
basically the word is being used. I realized why you talked about it, because we come from the same world of unschooling and free living and respect for everyone, including children. It doesn't matter how old you are, you're still worthy of 100% respect. But the word resilience and resilient children, it often appears in the context of schooling. It appears, you want the children to be able to handle the pressure of school.
Oh yeah,
complaints.
Yeah, and this is.
I want the children to complain and rebel against that, because
exactly.
it's like being taken hostage for 10 years of your life, basically. Not as severe maybe as your experience, but there are similarities. There is no control. They have it's not voluntary, and they have no choice to not be there. So, and then I hear this, but we want the children to be resilient. No, we don't. We want them to protest.
Now I got your point.
That's why I had this hesitation with the word.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cecile. It hits the nail upon its head. This is Jesper. You asked, what is fascinating you about resilience? It is, and I agree totally, not just in the school context, but also in business context. People think, you have to be resilient to cope with a lot of shit. Yeah, sorry to say that.
No.
In your podcast, but to swallow everything and to still survive. And this sometimes that's just wrong, to cope with something. Sometimes it's right to change it, not to cope with it, and to get out of an environment, not to learn to cope with the environment. And if there are companies like asking can you give a resilience training, then the big question is, what for? Do you expect the people to complain less and to burden more? Or is it, stress? If you're stressed, that can be just a symptom for something going wrong externally. And sometimes it's important, and companies always see that do you have the right strategy? Are you in the right market? Do you have a good culture in your leadership, in your communication, or is there something to change? And you shouldn't, make your employees kind of shut up. You should listen to them, because this is what teaches you where something is to be changed. And the same with kids, obviously. You should not just make them suffer with a smile. You should make them aware that something is to be changed.
Mm.
Or to let them become aware. I mean, you don't have to make them be aware. Kids know exactly, unfiltered, that something goes wrong, and to listen to them is a pure source of clarity.
It is. And the word resilience is just being misused. It's being,
Oh, yes.
It's not about actually wanting resilient children. It's about wanting children who obey.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be.
Yeah. No, I
Okay.
couldn't
I nailed
agree
that
more.
one. Nice.
Next.
Next. Insight of the day.
I couldn't agree more.
Your turn.
Yeah. No, because my mind is sometimes funny, Mark, and I'm like, I get questions pops up in my mind, and then I'm like, is that weird to ask? But I will ask anyway.
Oh, yeah, please.
140 days in the jungle, in a tropical island. If you weren't in a situation where you was held hostage, some of it must have been enjoyable. You must have seen some beautiful nature. How do you cope with? And let me continue the story with my own personal experience of sitting at home in the tub. I've told the story before on the podcast. When Cecilia had cancer, one of these days where I didn't know if I would see her the day after, I was sitting in the tub with our two youngest. It was pre-beard, and we were making a foam bath, and I made a beard and looked funny, and we laughed so much. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, maybe my wife is dying. Hey, but this is funny.
Yes.
So we're there. So, and this gave me strength to live through that period, that I became aware that if a situation I cannot control, it's okay for me to also enjoy the here and now, because me worrying won't solve it. My job was to be there for my kids, be the support for my wife when I saw her, be there for the kids. That was like my only job. Make them as whole as possible through this process. And at the same time, my question is then, what are some good days in the jungle, Mark? Was there some wonderful animals to look at? Did you see some butterflies which was just mind-blowing beautiful?
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, what you describe is so important. You have to look at the positive, and you have to laugh, not despite of a dangerous or even deadly risk or situation, but because of it. If you don't fill up your batteries, and humor is a great thing, and enjoyment is a great thing to do so, then that's it. You most likely won't survive. And so, yes, there were moments in the jungle which were so crazy, so crazy. One example was, we were walking for 2 days and one night, running away from shooting situations, and almost, starving on the way. Was really tough. But then we walked by a tree which was full of, how do you call them? Those light bulb bees or whatever, those, how do you call them? I don't know. It's Glühwürmchen, it's in German.
Light flies. So I don't know the English
like,
word, but small,
like light bulbs.
beautiful.
And the whole tree was full of thousands of them, and you could see the tree was just, there, just like a miracle. And this was so beautiful. And to just see it, and to believe it could also be a positive sign somehow from whatever happened, heaven, universe, name it as you like, but to enjoy that is very important. We did laugh a lot. Yes, not despite, but because of the situation. We loved it. We played, we made jokes and stuff. And the most crazy thing is that I didn't know that one of my survival strategies in life is gallows humor. And I became aware of that in a very difficult situation where actually the kidnappers were standing in front of us and making very clear, if no ransom money is paid, then we will chop off your head. We will behead you. And this is when I came up with a sentence, Mark, don't lose your head now. Which means, don't get crazy, and at least in German it does, don't lose your head now. And this is nur nicht den Kopf verlieren was so, it's not, it's not really a joke. It's just a matter of you reacting somehow.
It's really funny though.
Yeah, it is. And it's not, I don't know. Gallows humor is a very special animal. And humor is just great. And I know the issue with a bad conscience if somebody else is, but I mean, like medical doctors, they have such a stressful job. So sometimes they do make jokes just to, cope with it. And that sounds perhaps like very bad, but it is actually very helpful. No, I couldn't agree more. That's laugh. Not about somebody, but just to keep well.
Yeah, I agree. Having fun is the centerpiece of getting through hard times, and will also make the hard times a little less hard.
Absolutely. Mark, we try to keep our podcast in a certain length, but I love talking with you. So I will ask for some advice for our listeners. What is the normal advice you share with people based on the journey you have been on in life? Is there one overall? I know it's a little like, hey, just pop out the best advice.
Yeah.
Subject. Yeah.
Okay. Good. One sentence or two. Okay. For you personally, or for you said some advice for your business. I understood.
No, for the listeners, people listening.
For you
for the
personally,
listeners, I understood. For the business,
for me
I
would
thought
be
like,
good.
okay.
No.
For the listeners, well, I believe, okay, they're like, if you're in trouble, and sooner or later we are in life, then what definitely helps is accept the situation. That doesn't mean you need to love it, but accept that it's there, to deal with it. And then to stay optimistic means don't drown in your fear, but try to do what you just described, try to find positive aspects and be at a foam bath with your kids and to fill up your batteries. Be not just optimistic, but realistic as well. So don't think, it's not just that bad, it's going to end soon. Sometimes be realistic and say, okay, what if? Have a plan B, be prepared, deal with the risks. Number 4 is don't stay a victim, but act, do something about your situation, even little things, and be proud of every little advancement that you make, even if you can't solve the whole big thing at once, which is called self-efficacy. It's a great one as well. And the last but not least is don't stay alone. Never walk alone. Really try to be in a network, connect with other people, because yes, together you are stronger in a difficult situation. And the more you connect yourself in good times, the bigger the social net that will help you in difficult times. And this is just being in a situation, and more importantly even is, that's why I tried to sum up my resilience learning in the title of my book, which is a 2-name title. It's Strength Through Crisis. And the one is what I just described, is to stay strong in a difficult time, but to grow stronger from it is even more important. Yeah. So if you if you really had have a crisis that you survived, then don't, like I did the mistake, don't forget to look back and to really ask yourself, what can I learn from it? And the best would be, did I make a mistake that I cannot, I can avoid in the future? Then that's the best you can do from it. Then you get even stronger.
I love that.
Wisdom summed up.
That's
Much
how
more
we
than a sentence. I'm really sorry.
Oh, no, I
for your
like it.
45
I like it.
minutes.
Yeah,
We can make YouTube clips.
yeah, for people. So, Mark, if people want to know more about your story, your work, and your book, where do they find you?
Well, in the internet, if you enter my name, it's Marc with a C and Wallert, then sure you find my website, which is also there in English. You find my book as well, which also is there in English. Strength Through Crisis is available everywhere, and yeah, and on every social. No, not that's wrong. I'm actually not that strong on every social media. No, not at all. Best on LinkedIn, a little bit on Instagram or Facebook, and I'm super happy to connect. I'm super happy if people come up with questions or come back to me and exchange even about their stories of life. I'm super open and happy about that.
Perfect. But here's the recommendation for people to go out, check your website, and read your book. And Marc, once again, it has been a big pleasure, and give a lot of love to your wife from us. We look forward to see her again also.
And now it's the time. I was obviously supposed to greet you from her as well. Thank you so much for sharing your story as well, for helping us through our lives as well. And great. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. All the best.
It was fun.